Welcome to the Ballpark Digest Chat. I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, rejoined once again by Kevin Reichard of Ballpark Digest and a special guest whom we'll introduce in just a second. But first, Kevin, how are you?
I am good. We're in book shipment season. My 1961 arrived today on a big semi truck. So getting books out there already into the multiverse.
Get it out there. That's beautiful. We are joined by Dave Heller, whom I first met in what the old timers would call the Midwest League. And with Quad Cities River Bandits, the owner of the Bandits, and me with the Lansing Lugnuts. And my experiences in going to Quad Cities since joining the league in 2009 and seeing how that ballpark every single year added new additions and became just an incredible spot to go to. We'll talk about the River Bandits, but first, Dave, welcome on. How are you?
I am great. It's nice to be here. It's great to it's really kind of a wonderful pleasure and honor to be on Ballpark Digest podcast. You know, Ballpark Digest to me is the gold standard for information in our industry, and I think you guys do it better than just about anybody.
Kevin, when did you first meet Dave in person?
In person, that would have been in the Quad, right? Or was it in winter meetings?
It would have been would have been in the Quad Cities.
Yeah.
That's in the Quad Cities. You came down here.
That would have been it. That would have been before the Ferris wheel, but that would have been when you were making all the big changes on the second level.
Yes, that's right.
When we upgrading everything.
Yeah, when we built, I'll tell you when it was. I know when we met. We met in 2011, in July of 2011, because you came down for the Midwest League All-Star game.
That's right.
And we had just built the Champions Club, which is a 2,400 square foot big great room with glass garage doors, 4 of them that open and close based on the weather.
Yeah, and we were showcasing cities in a second. If you don't mind, Dave, I want to go back just a little bit earlier, not too much earlier, but you're my fellow Marylander. You're from Baltimore,
yes.
And then from Brown University to Oxford University to Yale University. Yes. And then you were teaching 20th century American politics, undergrad seminar. You're working big in politics. How does this, and we know now the influx of all of the Ivy Leaguers coming into baseball, you beat them all into it. How did you first get involved in baseball?
I got involved because in 2001, I went to the baseball winter meetings Boston, the Copley Hotel. And I thought this would be fun. It would be neat if I could, buy like 5% of a minor league team. I always loved minor league baseball. When I was in college at Brown, I used to take women on dates to see the Pawtucket Red Sox. Didn't get many second dates, but we had a good time. And I've always loved minor league baseball, and I thought it would be neat to just go in and, buy 5-6% of a club. And I ended up buying 100% of a club. And if you're going to get in, I guess, jump in with both feet first in the deep end of the pool, right?
Well, you did, and then you found deeper pools.
I found certainly better pools. And I tell you, the day in 2007 that I went to the Quad Cities for the first time was really a day that changed my life. I joke, she doesn't really like it, but I joke that it took me 3.5 years to marry my wife, and it took me about 3.5 minutes to marry Modern Woodmen Ballpark. I just fell in love with the place right away.
It's right on the Mississippi. It's like a
right on the
ballpark
Mississippi.
Out of the postcard.
It is the best view in all of baseball. There's no doubt in my mind.
And you've made it one of the best ballparks in all of baseball by far.
Thank you.
It is amazing what you've done there, considering it's a pretty limited footprint. And you took over a ballpark that had been renovated,
Yes.
but not anything to where it is now in terms of amenities, in terms of the fan stuff. And that's ballpark geeks in baseball are to be treasured. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I'm definitely one. There's no question about that. I can tell you the square footage of every room in that ballpark. I know it like the back of my hand, and I love the place. I love every inch of the place. And when we finish this latest round of renovations to meet the MLB PDL standards, which we're going to do over this winter, it's really going to sparkle. It's really going to be special.
When you first purchased the Quad Cities River Bandits, when you first took over the facility, what were the first steps that you made to upgrade the ballpark?
Oh, the very first thing I did, so two things right away. Number one was we sold naming rights, right? It had always been John O'Donnell Stadium, and there's just not, it's a small, Quad Cities is a relatively small market, right? Where you have about 400,000 people here. And in scheme of minor league baseball, where you've got AAA clubs playing in NBA cities like Portland and San Antonio and Indianapolis, and playing in NFL cities like Charlotte and Nashville and Indianapolis. We're a small market, and we needed that revenue to be able to not just survive, but to thrive. And so selling those naming rights to Modern Woodmen and having Modern Woodmen of America, who I say all the time, they're the greatest naming rights partner in sports. I mean, they're just so wonderful to work with. We're so blessed to have them here. And getting that deal done, that assured the financial stability of the franchise. And with that money, the very first thing I bought was an 80-foot long, 6-foot tall ribbon board. And we put that in right field to give the ballpark, that sort of major league feel, which people in small towns don't often see, or certainly back in 2007 weren't seeing. And that was kind of a big deal. And now, last year we replaced that with a new 82-foot long by 7-foot tall HD state-of-the-art ribbon board, which is like, the picture is just unbelievable. It's like watching your own television 10 feet away.
If I have my timeline right, and I apologize for bringing up a bad memory, this is in between the 2007-2008 off season, and
Yes.
you head into the 2008 season, and here's your first flood of the ballpark.
Yes. Yeah. That was quite a welcome to the Quad Cities, right? Where the senator from Iowa in the 70s, John Culver, Democrat John Culver, wonderful, wonderful guy. He got flood money up and down the river. And all along the river is going to protect Iowa from flooding. And in Davenport, there was a small group of activists who decided we don't want it. We don't want flood protection because it would, you're essentially building a wall, right? You're building a flood wall, and that's going to limit people's views of the Mississippi. And they didn't want that. And they lobbied Culver really, really hard. And so, the water comes down the Mississippi, and all these communities have these flood walls, and it gets to Davenport, and all of a sudden there's no flood wall, and and flooding here is a real challenge.
I'm going to come back to that in just a bit. It just strikes me that the most recent flooding, the ballpark was the only thing that didn't get flooded.
Yes. Yeah. Well, after the big 2008 flood, we were able, I worked with a wonderful, wonderful guy who's since passed away, a state senator here and a veterinarian named Joe Sang, who was our state senator. And he and I worked together, and our wonderful mayor, Bill Gluba, and we got Obama stimulus money to flood protect the ballpark. And they've won awards for the flood protection system in that ballpark. And now the entire ballpark is completely flood protected. No water gets in at all. And in 2019, when we had the worst flood in the history of Davenport, we lost 20 home games due to flooding. And I can remember having to pay a guy to who had a boat, and I would put my groundskeeper in the boat, right? And they would row him over to the flood wall, and he would climb a ladder up the flood wall and then down the flood wall so he could get into the ballpark so he could water the grass. Right?
Amazing.
Yeah, it looked, I mean, we were an island amidst all of this flooding, and we lost the games not because of flooding impacting the ballpark. It didn't touch us at all. We lost the games because nobody could get in the ballpark. Like, you literally would have had to take a rowboat to get in there, or canoes.
It's like the Houston Astrodome when they opened it up and suddenly the rains were so bad that nobody could come. That they had been
Yes,
rained out
right.
on the outside.
Yes.
Right.
I want to keep on asking you about the amazing features that you've added, but Kevin, let me break every now and then for you to poke in.
Oh, I love all the features. The Ferris wheel's fun. The most unusual merry-go-ride in America, I think, is fun.
All right, let's get into these. Let's get into
Yeah.
the rides, because the players will ride the rides. Where did you
Oh,
have
yes, they
the
do.
idea to say,
Yes.
let's add a Ferris wheel?
Yeah. So I will confess to you, it was my second choice. Right? If you want to know the truth, it was my second choice. What I really wanted was a roller coaster. And I went to see the mayor and the city manager back in 2012 and pitched the idea of putting in a roller coaster. And they looked at me like, are you out of your mind? No, we're not doing that. We're not building a roller coaster right along the Mississippi. And I said, what about a Ferris wheel? They're like, well, a Ferris wheel could work.
Can you imagine the thrill ride that a roller coaster would be as you get close to the river?
Can I imagine it?
Oh,
for
you can
sure.
imagine it. I'm speaking generically of everyone else.
Oh yeah, we're on the Mississippi, and then right next to us, as people who know our ballpark will know, is the Centennial Bridge, which crosses the Mississippi, right? Which traverses the Mississippi, and is all lit up at night. And my idea was to have the roller coaster start in the ballpark and actually go underneath the bridge and kind of climb at an angle like this, up, in a tunnel of darkness, right? And then you get through the bridge and you come up on the other side and it's all daylight. And then you get to the very top and it slows way down so everybody can look around the Mississippi, and then whoosh, right down.
How close did this come to becoming a reality?
Honestly, not close. I
you
love
got your
the
Ferris
idea.
wheel.
So it did get to the point where I talked to roller coaster designers and roller coaster engineers about it, and had picked one out and had given him my, back of the napkin ideas about what the roller coaster would look like and so on. But no, the mayor and the city manager, they weren't really having it. So that's where we went with the Ferris wheel.
Are you an amusement park guy? Like growing up?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, for
Okay.
sure. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The whole idea, right, is to create a park within a park.
Yes.
Right? That you go to the baseball winter meetings and you listen to owners, especially some of the older ones, and they'll complain about, kids today, they don't sit there, they don't watch, they don't keep score, they don't do all these things that we did when we were kids. And I'm like, yeah, you can sit around and criticize kids, or you can kind of meet them where they live, right? And give them what they want. And that's what we've tried to do in Quad Cities. And so we started, our first ride was a drop and twist, which is about 30 feet tall, and it takes you up. And then, and all the time it's rising, it's spinning at the same time. So it's spinning and rising, spinning and rising, spinning and rising, and then it's going up and down, fast and slow, all the while spinning, and it's kind of cool. And that was a great hit. And then we followed that up with the Ferris wheel, and then we added a gyroscope like that they train the astronauts on in NASA, where 4 people get in, facing each other this way and that way, and it spins them upside down and sideways and all around. And that's been a really popular ride. And then we added the only double-decker merry-go-round in the entire state of Iowa. In fact, the only one anywhere between Chicago and Kansas City, which was really fun. The governor came out and cut the ribbon and was the first person to ride the merry-go-round. And she was great. She had a wonderful time on it and brought her grandkids, and they loved it too. We had a game that night, and I thought she's going to cut the ribbon and take a couple pictures and leave, and she stayed for the whole game, and it was so awesome. And she had a great time, and we had a great time, and the merry-go-round has become a huge hit. And boy, people love that double decker. They love the second level. They sure do. And then we followed that up, right? We've added a spinning roller coaster, a little spinning kids coaster. Doesn't get more than 30 feet off the ground, but as the cars, whiz around in sort of a figure-8 type track that's angled, they're spinning. And it is really deceptively thrilling. Like, parents will go on there with their kids, right? And they'll be like, oh, this will be fun for little Billy, and I'll go with him and hold his hand. And the parents come off and they're laughing and giggling, and they're like, that was really cool. I really had a good time on that. And that's really fun. When you can have, intergenerational fun, that to me is when you're cooking with gas. That's when you really feel like you've done something. And the Ferris wheel of all is the best example of that. I mean, I've seen people, without exaggeration, from 3 months to 100 years old get off that Ferris wheel, and the one thing they have in common is every one of them is smiling.
Now, you've done some of these with partners, basically, correct? In community building.
I have. We did. So Genesis Hospital is the biggest and best hospital here in our region, and we did a unique partnership with them on the spinning coaster, where they fronted us a good significant chunk, not all, but a significant chunk of the money to buy the coaster. And we pay them back every year over 5 years to pay off the coaster. We're almost done. And we gave them naming rights to the coaster in exchange for a loan that they get all their money back. And then we give 50 cents of every ride to the Genesis Foundation to pay for free flu shots for every child in the Quad Cities, which is something that we've been doing since 2010. And all of us today know how important those flu shots are. We started it 11 years ago. And we also pay for them to have the best neonatal intensive care unit in town. And both my kids were born in the NICU. And I wanted to make sure that everybody in the Quad Cities has the same access to healthcare, to quality healthcare, that my wife and I were fortunate enough to have with our 2 boys. And we sponsor Camp Genesis with that money also, which is a camp for families with cancer who are dealing with cancer and trying to beat cancer. So they do so much wonderful work over at Genesis Health Systems, and we're really proud to support them. And it started with the Ferris wheel and then the coaster, and now we just give 50 cents off every single ride to Genesis to pay for all of this.
It was all of these different changes that you made, the additions that you made, the enhancements to the ballpark. I remember the Hall of Fame autographed jerseys that I get to see upstairs. We mentioned the Champions Club. Is
Yeah.
there one that stuck in your mind that maybe you weren't entirely sold on at first, that you became sold on when you saw it actually being there?
So I don't know about sold on. I will tell you that I've been pleasantly surprised, especially at the Hall of Fame, right? So one day I'm having lunch with the publisher of the Quad City Times, which is the biggest newspaper here in town, a great partner of ours. And she tells me that she alludes to the Quad City Sports Hall of Fame. And I said, like, I live here. What are you talking about? I've never heard of a Quad City Sports Hall of Fame. And she says, well, every year, we have this big dinner and we inaugurate 3 people into the Quad City Sports Hall of Fame. And I said, where is this Hall of Fame? And she says, well, we have all the plaques in a closet in our building. And I said, oh, that's awful. That's not how it should be. And so we hired a graphic designer and we created a Quad City Sports Hall of Fame up on our suite level to go with the Hall of Fame jerseys that you're talking about. And now all of those plaques are out of the closet and they're proudly displayed along both sides of the wall. And people will come wander up and look at the plaques, and it's over 50 years of sports history in the Quad Cities, and it's on display in our ballpark. And when we can do things like that honor great people in our community and reinforce this sense of community that we have in our ballpark that makes us so special, that's really neat. Like, that's important to me.
There's also one other thing you did that you probably should mention. You technically didn't buy the River Bandits, did you? The team was a different beast then.
They were called the Swing of the Quad Cities at the time. When you alluded to the renovation that was done in 2003, when they basically took a ballpark that was built in 1931 and left the facade and redid everything on the inside. And when that happened, the owner of the team, a fellow by the name of Kevin Krause, decided to change the name from River Bandits to the Swing of the Quad Cities. And when I was negotiating to buy the team from him, I said, explain to me why you call it the Swing of the Quad Cities. And he says, in his very high-pitched voice, he says, well, it's kind of a triple entendre. You've got the swing of the bat, and we're here in Davenport where the river runs east to west. So you've got the swing of the river, and you've got Vic Spiderback and the old Jazz age and the swing of the Jazz era. And so we thought that kind of triple entendre would be really fun. And I looked at him and I said, you market to 10-year-olds with a triple entendre. And we held a name the team contest right after I bought the club. And we invited people in the community to submit names. And they submitted a whole bunch of names, and we narrowed it down to our favorite 5. We took those and the River Bandits and the Swing and put them all up there. And in a 7-way race, the River Bandits got 82% of the vote. So it was pretty, clear where the community wanted to be, and that's where I wanted to be. So it was a great fit.
It's actually a great name. I don't know why he would have changed it in the first place. It had a great logo with that bandana on the baseball.
Yes. Yeah, which we brought back.
Which you brought back.
Yeah.
You brought you brought the raccoon. You brought the bridge into the logo. You made it strictly local without having to explain it.
Yes.
And that's the best branding of all.
Yeah, well, we spent a lot of time on that, and I know a lot of people are quick to go to Brandios and some of the other more well-known designers. We used a fellow by the name of Francis Santaquiliani out of New Mexico with FS Designs, and he just knocked it out of the park. He did such a great job with it. And it's 14 years later and still going very strong.
About the community appeal, and I'm going to get into the difficult area of this last year, talking about Main Street baseball. So the community, the local theme of the team name, and what the Hall of Fame means to the community. You owning, as president and CEO of Main Street Baseball, operating these baseball teams in these very specific communities that love their baseball. Well, this past year has been very difficult for how many communities in that uncertainty of what would happen to their baseball team. What has this last year plus been like for you?
Oh, look, you can see gray hair over here that wasn't there before. It's been a real challenge. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the pandemic has been hard on so many people, right? Hard on everybody. And to have the specter of contraction hanging over your head, I don't want to say it makes it doubly hard. I'd say it makes it like geometrically way, way harder. And I'm so proud of this community. I'm so proud of the way it rallied. And I'm so proud of our elected officials and how they fought so hard to get us off the contraction list, right? Because there were only 2 or 3 teams that were on the list that came off at the end of the day, right? Major League Baseball pretty much did what they wanted to do. And for us to have been on the list and to have gotten off the list, that really says a lot about this community. It says a lot about people here, how devoted they are to baseball in general and the River Bandits in particular. Says a lot about our city council and our wonderful mayor, Mike Mattson, and the leadership that he showed in getting millions of dollars appropriated to make improvements to the ballpark in the middle of a pandemic, right? That's not easy. And Senator Grassley and Senator Joni Ernst and Governor Kim Reynolds and former Congressman Dave Loebsack, Abby Finkenauer, like they were all great. They all pulled together and they all really fought hard to keep the River Bandits. It was really a total team effort.
From this, we know where Quad Cities is.
Yes.
Pioneer League lost its affiliations. And so in a
Yes.
sense, they're now pioneering.
Yeah.
What has this been like with Billings, with the Pioneer League, as the Pioneer League goes it alone and says, look at us, look how we're going to enjoy baseball now moving forward?
Boy, it's been a high wire act. Sometimes it feels like without a pole. It's really been interesting. It's been a lot of fun, and it's financially really scary, right? I mean, in essence, you're saying, okay, Pat O'Connor used to always say every winter meetings, right? Kevin, you've heard this for 2 decades now.
Yeah.
He would get up and he'd give his state of the game speech and say, 1/3 of the teams make money, 1/3 of the teams lose money, and 1/3 of the teams break even, right? We've all heard him say that over and over again. Well, you would think that if 1/3 of the 160 minor league teams are making money, though, the ones that are making money are in the bigger markets, right? They're the triple A's and the big double A's and the Daytons and Grand Rapids who are single A's playing in huge markets. And then if there are ones that are losing money, it's the Ogdens and Missoulas and Great Falls and Grand Junctions of the world, right? And so you start with this premise of most of the teams in the Pioneer League either aren't making much money or breaking even or losing money. And then you say, we're going to take $350,000 and we're going to slide it from Major League Baseball side of the ledger over here to your side. And you got to figure that out. Good luck. Right? That's a real challenge. And we've hired this wonderful, wonderful, awesome league president named Mike Shapiro, who is a lifetime baseball guy. He was with the Braves and the Giants, and more recently the Nationals, and especially of late the Orioles, to be our president. And he's really, out there with a flashlight leading the way. And he's told us, look, we're going to do this. We're going to have fun, and we're going to figure out a way to survive. And he's been doing it, and it's been great.
What was your initial reaction to the knockout, to the home run derby replacing extra innings?
Oh, I loved it. So I did. I loved it. Honestly, my initial reaction was, it's a neat idea. I suggested that we do the 10th inning just the way Major League Baseball does, and start it with a runner on second. And if nobody scored that inning, then we would go to the knockout in the 11th. And the other guys in the league were like, no, the knockout's a great idea. Let's just do it right away. And I'm like, okay, I'm not pushing back on that. If you want to do that, let's do it. I thought the knockout was really cool. And the one thing that I contributed to the knockout was, after 5 pitches, right? You get 5 pitches each, not swings, pitches. And after 5 pitches, if the score is still tied, because of my rule, now you have to bring in another hitter. You can't just use the same guy, right? And he gets 5 pitches. And if it's still tied, then you got to bring in another hitter who gets 1 pitch. And it's sudden death, right? And if he gets a home run, game's over. Other side gets a home run, game's over. But the hitter has to keep changing all the time. And I thought that would make it even more fun for fans to see different people get a shot at it.
So
I think the knockout's going to be really cool. I do.
Yeah. Oh, it's very cool. How liberating was it to be able to actually discuss baseball in a meeting instead of the latest dictates from minor league baseball?
Look, all of us would rather play as an affiliated team than with whatever dictates or rules that they want to impose than the way we're doing it now, right? We would, that's the truth. We all really enjoyed our relationships with our affiliates. In Billings, we were a Cincinnati Reds affiliate for 46 years. And so you're talking about generations of people in Billings, Montana, who grew up with the Cincinnati Reds. And it was really hard, really sad to see them, pull a truck up and pick up all their stuff and leave. That was hard. So we miss them. That said, there is definitely something, fun and empowering about being able to make your own rules and come up with new, innovative, clever ideas to improve on the game. And that's been neat that we've been doing that. It's great that we've got such an awesome bunch of guys in the Pioneer League who are willing to kind of step out in faith and try new things. I tell you this, Kev, I have been in 6 leagues in minor league baseball, 6 different teams, and you'll never find a better bunch of guys than you will in the Pioneer. Never.
I was just going to say, it's a pretty strong lineup of owners, actually, when you look at experience and expertise.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've got people like DG Elmore and his son Gant, who own a couple teams in our league, and obviously they own more teams, the Elmore family, than anybody else in all of minor league baseball. And we've got Jeff Eisenman and Missy Martin, who own Boise, and if there's a better operator in baseball than Jeff Eisenman, I don't know that I've met him. I mean, Jeff is one sharp cat. He really is. And Jeff Katofsky is awesome, building a spectacular $300 million sports complex in northern Colorado for the NoCo Isles that's going to open next year. That's going to be so exciting. And Dave Baggett, my pal who started as a player and then became a coach and ultimately an owner, and has spent his entire life in baseball. There are people, Kev, there are people who in baseball who like me. I'm pleased about, of course, and there are people who don't, and that's fine too. But man, if you don't like Dave Baggett, there's something wrong with you. You gotta look in the mirror pretty deep.
Yeah.
You probably ought to go to the Freud Institute and have round the clock surveillance, because there's something seriously wrong if you don't like that dude. He's as great as they come. But all of them. I mean, Peter Davis, my pal in Missoula, who's just brought such a breath of fresh air and new energy. He and his wife and Susan into that franchise, and Vinny Purpura up in Great Falls. It's just an awesome.
So how do things look in? I was going to say, how do things look in Billings for the season? I mean, that's a cornerstone of that league.
It is for sure. It's the whole thing is going to be a really interesting experiment, right? The good news is, we're going to have 10 extra games, 10 extra home games each, right? 20 extra games, 10 extra home games. Instead of starting the third week of June, we're going to start just before Memorial Day, and we're going to go right through to Labor Day. And those extra 10 home games, hopefully, will generate enough revenue to help us, if not entirely cover, but certainly defray the costs of all those player salaries and coaches' salaries that we're going to have to be, as I said, moving over to our side of the ledger. It'll be an interesting experience. It will. I know this: the players are going to be every bit as good as what we've always had, if not. I don't want to say if not better, because we had Hunter Green, the overall number 2 pick in the draft in Billings. You're not going to get anybody of that caliber, but our second best player in Billings in 2019 hit 283, and he was a 26th round draft pick, right? When the draft is only 20 rounds, those guys who would have been drafted in rounds 21 through 30 by MiLB, they're now coming into the Pioneer League. So it's going to be a really awesome experience. We're all looking forward to it.
That's where I get excited, because I see how much talent slips through the cracks. So you'll have scouts, major league organizations watching very carefully.
Oh, for sure. Look, we're going to have TrackMan, and we're going to have all of our games are being filmed, and Major League Baseball is going to have access to all that data. And when somebody is performing well in the Pioneer League, they're going to know it. I don't know that that's true in the Frontier League or in the Futures League or something, some other league. I don't know that that's true, but I know it is true in the Pioneer League. And if you're a young man who wants to play baseball professionally and was draft eligible and wasn't drafted, well, Pioneer League is the best place to get seen. It really is. No doubt in my mind. And the other thing, you've got now, Major League Baseball has this 180 minor league player rule, right? That's all the major league clubs can have. Used to be unlimited. You could sign as many as you wanted. Now it's 180. And if they're drafting 20 players every year, that means there's 20 players they're releasing every year, right? To make room for those 20. And those recently released guys, they're going to come to the Pioneer League too. And that's cool. Right? I can tell, look, we haven't even played a game yet in the Pioneer League. And we signed a kid in Billings earlier this week. And yesterday the Braves called and said, we want him. And I thought, this is great. This is exactly what the Pioneer League is supposed to be doing, right?
That's what I figure you're going to have, is you're going to have such a selling point of, here are all the major league organizations that our guys are now with. You're going to be chock full of great talent.
We are. I'm really excited about it. Like, my friend Gant Elmore uses a wonderful phrase. We have created a terrific niche in the player development ecosystem. And we've carved out that niche for ourselves. And it's a space in that ecosystem that nobody else occupies right now. And we're really filling a need. And I think that's awesome.
Kevin, any more thoughts?
I was going to say, it's going to be an interesting year in the Pioneer League.
Oh, it sure is.
I think it's going to be a great time. I think the niche is good. I think in many ways, you know, I know the loss of affiliation stings, but in some ways you're better positioned in the long run.
Well, I hope so. I certainly hope so. It's, you know, in my mind, where I'd like the Pioneer League to get to is where we work closely with Major League Baseball to help them develop new talent, or not just players, but coaches and managers and trainers and strength and conditioning people and so on, right? Like, I would love it if we became a place where African Americans could start their coaching career, or women, or gays, or people who, Latin players who wanted to go into coaching or managing. All of them, like people who are not the typical, you know, look of a major league or even a minor league coach. We'd love for them to get their start in the Pioneer League. All of us PDL club owners are having to spend many millions of dollars to build out our ballparks to meet these new requirements, one of which is separate dressing rooms, right, for women coaches and women umpires. Well, where do those women coaches come from? Right? It's A-ball has gotten so advanced, it's just hard to believe they're just going to start there. It would seem to me a good place for them to start would be the Pioneer League. And the ones who succeed in the Pioneer League are the ones who might move up to Columbia, or one of the Florida State League clubs, or one of the Cal League clubs. You know, that would make sense to me. And if we can do something that's going to create opportunity for women in baseball, minorities in baseball, people with a different sexual preference than you know, a traditional married guy, I think that's wonderful. I think that's awesome.
It's got me thinking.
Yeah.
Where you started, looking to just get 5%.
Yeah.
The changes that you have seen today in 2021, to the changes that you foresee coming on the horizon, the changes that have been and the changes that will be. It's fascinating. And as you put it, it's thrilling. These are changes that need to happen, and now there's place for them to happen.
Well, I think that's right. Like, there are some changes that are happening, some experiments that are happening in the minor leagues this year, right? Larger bases and the step off the rubber rule, and pitch clocks and so on, right? There are experiments that are happening in the minor leagues. There are other experiments that are happening in independent leagues. The Atlantic League is doing really neat stuff with Major League Baseball and putting the pitching rubber back an entire foot. I love the idea of the minor leagues as little laboratories, and we in the Pioneer League would love to be, and think we ought to be, part of those experiments. Like, I think that's good for the game, right? And the things that work, great, and the things that don't, there's no shame in trying.
Yeah.
On that note, are you ready for some baseball slang? Dave, this is how we wrap up each and every chat each week, is we simply say, choose any favorite baseball lingo. Baseball is such a great wealth of language that we use to describe the game. So since you are our guest this week, what is a piece of baseball slang that you really like?
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Yeah, boy, that's a tough one. Chin music.
Yes.
That's my favorite. Chin music. That's such a great phrase.
It's so descriptive. It
is so
exactly what it means.
Yes. Yes. And you want no part of it.
Yes.
Right. It's and look, that's, to me, that's one of the things, honestly, that, like, I love the phrase, but that's one of the things that needs to change about baseball. I would love to see the Pioneer League hold a bat flipping contest. You hit a home run, who does the greatest bat flip of the season? Right? Why not? Like, you go, you watch the World Baseball Classic, and these guys, they make an art of bat flip. Like, let's do stuff like that. Let's push the envelope a little more. Let's have some fun. That's what we're all about in the Pioneer League. And that's what we're all about with the River Bandits in Quad Cities.
Yeah, you've broken your rules, kind of the rules every step of the way. So keep it going.
We don't think of it as breaking the rules. We think of it as writing new ones.
On that note, Kevin Reichard, final thoughts.
I can't top that. So my thoughts are, thanks, Dave, for doing this. This podcast for Jesse and I has been so much fun lately, and discussions like this are why.
I remember sitting with you at the winter meetings, and we talked one day over lunch, and we said, why don't we do a contest to pick the best ballpark at every level, right?
Yeah.
And look at what you've done. And the way you have grown Ballpark Digest, and a 1.5 million page views in a month. I mean, it's just fantastic. And now with Jesse, you're becoming a multimedia platform, and it's really, it's just neat, and it's great for the game, and it's great for baseball, and it's great for people who love the game and want to learn more about it. And I'm flattered that you would let me be a part of it.
Oh, I'm happy to have you here. I hope we're good for the game. I think one thing Jesse and I have in common, we're not cynical about the game, which you see a lot in coverage of baseball these days, and life's too short to be cynical about America's pastime.
For sure. No, you love the game, and it comes through, and I love that about you. I'm proud to call you my friend.
Well, you too.
All right, pal.
For Kevin Reichard, for Dave Heller, I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, and this has been the Ballpark Digest Chat.